Welcome back, boys and girls. In this episode, I am risking my life again by crossing over the river bridge and into Wroxham, the Badlands. It's a beautiful sunny Sunday morning, so I thought what we'd do is we'd take a little walk up and I'll show you the outstanding natural beauty of Wroxham Broad. Maybe it's because I'm a Londoner that I love Norfolk so. Now, there's no rant in this particular episode because, quite honestly, I couldn't find anything to rant about. There's an absolute desert of interesting stuff coming out of the local authorities at the moment, but they're like daffodils. They're just beginning to come into bloom, and I'm sure they're going to carry on with their crazy ideas as the spring progresses. As we walk along, I'm going to be carrying on from the previous episode talking about crime in East London in the 50s and 60s. And in particular, you'll remember if you saw that episode, the amazing roller carpet. So if you didn't see the previous episode, I'll just recap a bit. Back in the day, I'd actually paid a bloke a £5 to nick me a carpet from this massive carpet warehouse just the other side of London Airport. What I wanted was a 12-foot square carpet that my mum wanted, blue. But he turned up with a forklift truck with an entire loom. These things are 30 foot long and stand 5 foot off the floor, probably weighing about 1.5 tons. And he chucked it on the back of my lorry and told me to fuck off, which I did rapidly. But on the way home, I'm thinking, what the hell do I do with it? I've got to get it off the lorry before I take the lorry, that is, back to the yard. Anyway, I broke all the rules of criminal behaviour and took the bloody thing home. I got me dad and I said, come on, you've got to give me a hand to get this fucking thing off the back of my wagon. We went downstairs, we had to tie a rope round it and then tie it back to the back of the garage and then drive the lorry away. If we never got nicked, it was a miracle to see somebody unloading a pink lorry if you don't mind, with a loomer carpet in the middle of the day. Now in the flats, my neighbour was Jamaican and he was a big lad and he had a son that was nearly as big as he was. So I banged on the door and I said, give me a hand to hide this roller carpet by shoving it into the garage, that last few feet, and I'll carpet your entire flat for you. Right on, man, he said, lead the way. Even when we finished shoving, it still stuck out about 18 inches from the garage door, so we had to fold the door down, one of those folding types, and tie it off with a bit of string and leave it while I took the fucking lorry back. I told him while I was there, see me tomorrow and you can give me a hand to get it out and we'll cut it up. How I never got nicked, I have got no idea. But that was the East End, you see, in those days. The most natural thing in the world is to see 4 guys, including me dad, rolling an entire loom of carpet across the car park so that we could cut it up into sections which were a bit more manageable. Nobody phoned the police. I suppose they thought, oh, it's just him again. So, as a summary then, my mum got a carpet for her lounge, both bedrooms, the hall. My next door neighbour, exactly the same, both bedrooms, hall, lounge, all blue. And we also did 2 flats downstairs and 1 flat upstairs. If the filth had ever come looking round there, they must have wondered why every person in this block of flats had the same fucking carpet. Looking back on it now, it was hilarious. Even the offcuts went to make little rugs for people's cars, or placemats, all sorts of things. This bloody carpet was everywhere. You didn't see anywhere that didn't have a piece of blue carpet in it. Another example of the thieving then, I mentioned to you that we all worked for parcels carriers just before Christmas because of the rush. Well, my current squeeze at the time had 2 younger brothers and they wanted fireworks for Guy Fawkes night. And they were expensive and they couldn't afford them. So I nicked for them a box of fireworks. What did it have in it? 112 boxes of 50p. 50p a box. You remember that? You got 1 rocket, 1 Catherine wheel and so on and so forth. For this bit I've left in the sound of the Broad on the early morning for your pleasure. A couple of weeks later, when I bumped into her two younger brothers. I said, "How are you getting on with the fireworks?" And they looked at me in horror and went, "Fucking fireworks. Never want to see a fucking firework as long as we live." Now, half the time, you nicked the box, but you didn't actually know what was in it until you got it open. Guess what happened? 112 nodding pen holders. Nodding pen holders. I couldn't sell them, I couldn't give them away, fucking things. Or 50 pairs of a really nasty cheap plastic shoes, all one size. Now they all went floating down the Regent's Canal. That was absolutely hilarious. It looked like a flotilla of little ships because they all floated. Now, if you were wondering how all this was achieved, well, it was just too easy. It was based on laziness. You see, the parcel companies were supposed to give all the drivers a printed waybill listing all the parcels on that sheet. The trouble is, they couldn't be bothered. So what they did was, they gave you a handful of blank sheets and said, "Write 'em in as you go, driver." Paradise. Another system of thieving was also quite simple. You would actually deliver the box, but you'd have some stuff out of it before you delivered it. This was particularly useful when it came to clothing, because clothing was delivered in those days to the big department stores in bales. They had bands round them, steel bands, so that you couldn't get in. But if you pushed down gently on them, you could separate the tape and have one or two jumpers and so on out of the bale. On one occasion, I was too late to make my final delivery in Bradford, and so was forced to spend a night out there, but I didn't have any money. So I performed this trick on one or two of the cartons in the back of the truck, and guess what happened? 32 drivers all went down the pub that evening, all wearing the same jumper. It was absolutely fucking hilarious. So there we are, boys and girls. These were the good days. These were the days of 100% mohair or worsted suits, Ben Sherman shirts, and going down the pubs and clubs like Tottenham Royal or Basil and Locarno. These were the real times. If you want me to tell you more about the crime that went on, leave a comment in the comment section below and I'll tell you more stories. There used to be a boozer just off the Whitechapel Road, tucked away round the back where no one could see it. I'm not going to tell you its name, but on a Friday night it used to be like a bureau de change. It used to be a trading centre. All the contraband stuff, the stuff that had been nicked off the docks and everywhere else, ended up being traded in this pub on a Friday night, and that included the filth, because they would bring in all the porn out of the West End that they confiscated and put it back on the streets on a Friday night. Guy goes to the doctors. He says, "Doc," he says, "I'm getting a bit worried about my wife." He said, "I think she's going deaf." And the doctor says to him, "Well, what level do you mean?" He said, "I mean, is he fully deaf or partially deaf? What?" He said, "Well, I don't really know." He said, "I just think she's going deaf." He said, "I'll tell you what to do," said the doctor. He says, "Stand about 25 feet away from her, and in your normal voice, just say, 'What's for tea?' or some other expression." He said, "Now if you don't get a response, shorten the distance by about 5 feet and try again. Ask her, 'What's for tea?' And if that don't work, reduce the distance again down to 10 feet. Ask her the same question. Then down to 5 feet. 5 feet away, 'What's for tea?' And his wife looked at him and went, 'Well, I've told you 4 fucking times, ham, egg and chips.' Here I am, walking back down the avenue. You'll need a lot of money if you want to buy a property down here, let me tell you. I'll bring you back to Wroxham Broad when the sailing season is underway, because that can be quite funny. If you think it's gentlemanly, I can assure you it's not. Some of the tempers get really frayed down here, and the language, oh yeah. Now here's a little tip for you, if you didn't know it already. Never ever rent or buy a property that doesn't have a serviceable chimney, and then you won't have to worry about heating costs ever again. Let me tell you, If there's a hedge, you've got heat. Come at the end now of this particular episode. I do hope you've enjoyed it. So, I get an awful love of things, just walking up and down. See ya.